United States knows that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Any country on the face of the earth with an active intelligence program knows that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
Less than a teaspoonful of dry anthrax in an envelope shut down the United States Senate in the fall of 2001.
The choice is his. And if he does not disarm, the United States of America will lead a coalition and disarm him in the name of peace.
Leaving Saddam Hussein in possession of weapons of mass destruction for a few more months or years is not an option. He's attempted to purchase high-strength aluminum tubes suitable for nuclear weapons production. Nuclear weapons, chemical agents.
It appears that there were not weapons of mass destruction there.
You said you knew where they were.
I did not. I said I knew where suspect sites were, and we were just...
You said you knew where they were, near Tikrit, near Baghdad, and northeast, south, and west of there. Those are your words.
My words were that... No. Wait a minute. Let him stay 1 second. Just a second.
Just a second, indeed. Rumsfeld's words about WMD, March 30th, 2003, on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, were, quote, "We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat."
We have no evidence that Saddam Hussein was involved with September the 11th.
Mr. Secretary, what exactly was the connection between Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda?
I tell you, I'm not going to answer the question. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. So I don't know where he is. I just don't spend that much time on it, to be honest.
But the fact that they would continue and perpetuate the lie suggests that we need a full investigation of what is going on and what is demonstrably an incompetent and, at worst, deceitful federal government. Christine Romans, thank you very much.
Fear, one of the most powerful motivators we know. Now, I want to make it very clear, fear is not bad intrinsically. It's a natural instinct. It's there to protect us. And there are lots of things out there that we need protection from, and it's right to be afraid of them. The difficulty is, over the last 50 years with the advent of television, we have been bombarded with fear messages. From the very early days of nuclear attack and the duck and cover commercials, to modern-day medicine commercial with their litanies of horrors should you take the medicine, to the very cute commercials for insurance that try and hide the fear message under humor. Now, because of this bombardment over the last 50 years, fear has become normalized. In fact, to the point that it can be used to manipulate us without us even really realizing it.
And few of us realize how vulnerable fear makes us. We like to think our emotions and our choices are our own. But what do we really know about fear? That fear makes us cautious. It makes us avoid risks. Now, this makes sense because after 9/11, it was fear that froze the nation's stock market. Fear that made thousands of us cancel vacations and start saving rather than spending. Fear kept us glued to television and radio. And this was true while they fed us more and more, knowing we were anxious, waiting for that one bit of information that would make us feel safe again. I'm afraid the media knows a truth about us, and that is this, that making us afraid makes us more dedicated viewers. So what you need to notice, and what we all notice, is how the media focuses so often on blame and scapegoating. How also it focuses on human brokenness, and not on things we can fix, but on things we can't. Notice how media's fixation, and especially the advertising industry's fixation on unrealistic ideals of beauty and wealth, make us want things that we don't have. And our own insecurities and our own fears are used to make us and to feed insecurities further and make us buy products we're told are going to make us more beautiful and more successful.
As far as I'm concerned, all of this airport security, all the searches, the screenings, the cameras, the questions, it's just one more way of reducing your liberty and reminding you that they can fuck with you anytime they want, as long as you put up with it. As long as you put up with it. Which means, of course, anytime they want. Because that's what Americans do now. They're always willing to trade away a little of their freedom in exchange for the feeling, the illusion of security. What we have now is a completely neurotic population obsessed with security and safety and crime and drugs and cleanliness and hygiene and germs. There's another thing. Germs. Where did this sudden fear of germs come from in this country? Have you noticed this? The media constantly running stories about all the latest infections, salmonella, E. coli, hantavirus, bird flu, and Americans they panic easily, so now everybody's running around scrubbing this and spraying that and overcooking their food and repeatedly washing their hands, trying to avoid all contact with germs.
The Biden administration will release its latest plan meant to identify and curb the increasing threat of domestic terrorism.
Today, the Biden administration is releasing what it calls a new strategy to fight domestic terrorism.
We're now hearing from Attorney General Merrick Garland on one of the Biden administration's top security priorities, combating domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism is on the rise across the country.
It's a little convenient that the group dressed as Trump supporters were waved into the Capitol building by the police. Many of them also happen to be Antifa members participating in the BLM riots just months prior.
And blood left here on the ground where people have pushed past this barricade. You can hear them getting louder, cheering.
Our nation's capital fell under siege by domestic terrorists. Yes, that's what I said, domestic terrorists.
Domestic terrorism. Domestic terrorists.
This obviously staged false flag is now being used as a part of a baseline to warrant new laws that are said to combat the domestic terrorism problem we have in this country. In reality, it's just more government-enforced pain.
Homeland Security has a warning for the country due to a heightened threat environment across the United States.
For the first time since the January insurrection, FBI Director Christopher Wray faced lawmakers today, reflecting on the Capitol attack and the growing challenge of domestic terrorism.
Federal law enforcement agencies say domestic terror has been on the rise in the United States.
Now, from the debate over gun safety to a resurgent threat here in the United States. That's domestic, homegrown terrorism.
Whatever the media cartel is talking about, we assume everyone else is talking about it. Through the use of repetition, the opinions they present to us we think are everyone else's opinions, or at least the majority.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The majority of these media platforms are there for nothing more than to parrot whatever message is demanded by the biggest contributor.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy while still delivering those packages to your doorstep. The company is keeping its employees safe and keeping its employees safe.
The fear is simply because you're not living with life, you're living in your mind. Your fear is always about what's going to happen next. That means your fear is always about that which does not exist. If your fear is about the non-existent, your fear is 100% imaginary. If you're suffering the non-existential, we call that insanity. So, people may be in just socially accepted levels of insanity, but if you're afraid or if you're suffering anything which does not exist, it amounts to insanity, isn't it? People are always suffering, either what happened yesterday or what may happen tomorrow. So your suffering is always about that which does not exist, simply because you're not rooted in reality. You're always rooted in your mind. Mind is… one part of it is memory, another part of it is imagination. Both of them are in one way imagination, because both of them don't exist right now. You're lost in your imagination, that's the basis of your fear. If you were rooted in reality, there would be no fear.
You face your fears, you become the person you want to be. You run from your fears, you're not living. You're not running the day. The day's running you. You always be the servant, not the master, guys.
Do not fear what they fear. Don't fear what they fear. Who's they? What the world fears. Do not be frightened. You don't have to fear 2020. You don't have to fear a pandemic. You don't have to fear suffering. You can rest assured that even if you face it, you can endure. Life is more than 80 years on this earth. Life is more than one presidential election. Life is more than just one moment.
Step aggressively towards your fear. And that step towards your fear is the step into bravery. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Instead, be aggressive. Take action now.
Our difficulty is we listen to a lot of things. We know a great deal. We have searched, asked, read. We have sought the advice of others. We have wandered the earth and to find out what it's all about. But we never ask of ourselves, we never demand of ourselves serious, deep questions. We always ask superficial questions. And so we make our life very superficial. But if you ask questions that are demand answer from yourself, so that you exercise your brain, your feelings, your whole attention is given to that question. Then you begin to discover for yourself without being told by anybody, including this speaker. And so when there is freedom from fear, you are then. You don't want gods, you don't want anything from anybody in the world. Then you are really a free man.